Welcome back to Carrick United Analysis. If you are new here, welcome to the channel. This is the place where football fans come to get honest, clear, and reliable breakdowns of the biggest stories in the game, including the transfer sagas happening at some of the biggest clubs in the world. No noise, no wild guessing, just real information explained simply so every single fan understands exactly what is going on. If that sounds like your kind of channel, hit subscribe, tap the bell, and let us get into today's story, because it is a genuinely fascinating one from the very top of world football. Football fans, have you ever wondered what it actually takes for a young player to succeed at the biggest club in the world? Because that is exactly the question at the heart of today's story. Diomande, the powerful young Ivorian center-back, has become one of the most heavily linked defenders in world football, with Real Madrid reportedly leading the race to sign him. This is a genuinely massive move for a player still so early in his career, and today we are going to break down everything around this transfer, what it means for the player, and what kind of mentality it takes to actually succeed at a club with the weight and expectation of the Santiago Bernabeu. A quick note before we start. Before we dive in, I want to be completely honest with you, because that is exactly what this channel is built on. This transfer is still developing, and while Real Madrid's interest in Diomande is very real and has been reported by multiple outlets, I want to make sure we are all clear that this remains an ongoing transfer situation rather than something that has already been fully completed and confirmed by the club itself. I always want to give you the most accurate picture possible, so let us walk through exactly what we do know. Who is Ousmane Diomande, and why is he generating so much interest? Let us start with the player himself, because if you are not familiar with his story yet, you are about to understand exactly why so many of Europe's biggest clubs have been chasing his signature. Diomande is a 22-year-old center-back from Ivory Coast, currently playing his club football for Sporting CP in Portugal. He has developed into one of the most exciting young defensive talents in European football, known for his physical power, his aggressive playing style, and his genuine pace for a player of his size and stature. Reports have linked him with an extraordinary number of major clubs over the past couple of years, including Real Madrid, Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester United, Newcastle, Bayern Munich, and Aston Villa, among others. When this many major clubs across Europe are showing serious interest in the same young player, it tells you everything about the level of talent being discussed here. His contract with Sporting includes a release clause reportedly set at around 80 million euros, translating to roughly 68 million pounds. That kind of release clause figure for a center-back still so early in his career shows just how highly Sporting themselves value his long-term potential, and it also gives any interested club a clear and specific price point to work toward if they want to guarantee his signature. Why Real Madrid specifically have been strongly linked? Now let us focus specifically on Real Madrid's interest, because they have consistently been positioned as one of the most serious suitors in this entire transfer saga. Real Madrid have reportedly identified Diomande as a genuine priority target to strengthen their backline for the long term. Several reports throughout this transfer window and the period leading up to it have described Real Madrid moving quickly to try and beat out heavy competition from clubs like Arsenal and Chelsea, both of whom have also shown serious, concrete interest in signing him. Why would Real Madrid specifically be so keen on this profile of player? Think about the demands of playing center-back for a club competing at the very top of both La Liga and the Champions League every single season. A defender needs genuine physical power to compete against the best forwards in world football, real pace to cover space in behind a high defensive line, and the mental composure to remain calm even in the most pressurized matches imaginable. Diomande's profile appears to tick each of these boxes, which explains why a club with Real Madrid's standards and ambitions would be so heavily linked with his signature. What would this move actually mean for Diomande? Let us shift our focus now to the player's own perspective, because moving to a club like Real Madrid, if this transfer does eventually get completed, would represent an enormous step up in his career. Sporting CP is a genuinely respected club with a proud history of developing top-level talent that goes on to succeed at the very highest level across Europe. Playing regular first-team football there has clearly given Diomande the platform to develop his game and build the kind of reputation that attracts interest from clubs like Real Madrid in the first place. But there is a significant difference between performing well for a talented young player at a club like Sporting and performing at the very top level for one of the 2 or 3 biggest football clubs on the entire planet. The scrutiny is different. The expectation is different. The pressure that comes with every single match is on a completely different scale. This is exactly why any potential move to a club of Real Madrid's stature needs to be viewed not just as an exciting opportunity, but also as a genuine challenge that requires the right mindset to succeed. The kind of mentality it takes to succeed at the very top. Let us talk properly about what it actually takes for a young player to thrive at a club with the history, expectation, and pressure of Real Madrid, because this is really the heart of today's discussion. Football history is full of examples of hugely talented young players who struggled to adapt after joining one of the true superclubs of the sport. Talent alone has never been enough to guarantee success at that level. The demands go far beyond simple ability on the ball. The first requirement is genuine work ethic. Clubs at this level are filled with senior professionals who have already proven themselves at the very highest level, and new arrivals, no matter how highly rated coming in, are expected to match or exceed the daily training standards already established within the squad. There is no room for anything less than full effort in every single session. The second requirement is discipline, both on and off the pitch. Playing for a club with this level of global attention means every action, every performance, and every public moment comes under intense scrutiny. Staying focused, professional, and disciplined amid that constant spotlight is a skill in itself, separate entirely from footballing ability. The third requirement is genuine mental resilience. Matches at the top level of European football come with enormous pressure, deafening crowds, and fans who expect excellence delivered consistently, week after week. A player who cannot handle that pressure mentally will struggle to perform to their true ability, no matter how talented they are on paper. The fourth requirement is a genuine willingness to learn from senior players already established within the squad. Every successful young player who has broken into a major superclub's first team has done so partly by listening carefully to more experienced teammates, understanding the culture of the dressing room, and absorbing lessons about professionalism and preparation from those who have already walked that difficult path themselves. Doesn't thinking about all of these demands give you a real appreciation for just how difficult it actually is to succeed at the very top of this sport, even for a hugely talented young player? Looking at history, players who successfully made this jump, it is worth thinking about examples throughout football history of young players who successfully navigated exactly this kind of pressurized environment at a major superclub, because their stories offer a genuinely useful blueprint. The common thread running through almost every successful transition tends to be exactly the qualities we just discussed: extraordinary work ethic, genuine humility despite talent and hype, a willingness to be coached and corrected, and the mental strength to bounce back from difficult moments rather than letting setbacks define an entire career. Players who arrive at a superclub believing their talent alone will carry them through often struggle far more than those who arrive with a clear understanding that talent is simply the starting point, not the finishing line. The players who go on to have truly legendary careers at clubs like Real Madrid are almost always the ones who combine natural ability with an absolutely relentless approach to their daily habits and preparation. This is exactly the kind of lesson that would be genuinely valuable for any young defender stepping into this kind of pressurized environment for the first time. Why competition from Arsenal and Chelsea matters in this story? Let us talk a little about the wider transfer competition surrounding Diomande, because understanding just how many major clubs have been chasing his signature adds real context to this entire story. Reports throughout this transfer saga have consistently mentioned both Arsenal and Chelsea as serious rivals in the race for his signature, alongside continued interest from clubs like Newcastle and Manchester United at various points. When this many major Premier League and European clubs are simultaneously showing serious interest in the same young defender, it tells you everything about the perceived ceiling on his potential. For a player still so early in his career, having this level of interest from multiple genuine title contenders across different leagues represents an extraordinary vote of confidence in his ability. It also means that whichever club does eventually complete a deal for his signature will have beaten out serious high-level competition to secure his services. The bigger picture, what this story tells us about modern scouting. Let us zoom out for a moment and think about what a transfer saga like this one tells us about how modern football scouting and recruitment actually works at the highest level. Major European clubs invest enormous resources into identifying young talent across leagues that might not always receive the same level of mainstream media attention as the traditional powerhouse divisions. Sporting CP, much like several other clubs across Portugal, has built a genuinely strong reputation over recent years for developing exactly this kind of talent. Players who go on to attract serious interest from the very biggest clubs in world football. This should serve as a reminder that genuinely exceptional talent can emerge from anywhere, and the scouting networks of the world's biggest clubs are constantly working to identify these players long before they become widely known names among casual football fans. What comes next in this transfer saga? So what should we actually be watching for as this story continues to develop? Watch closely for any official confirmation from either Real Madrid or Sporting CP regarding the actual status of these negotiations. Speculation and strong reported interest are one thing, but formal confirmation from the clubs themselves always carries far more weight than any individual report, no matter how credible the source. Watch for continued reports regarding Arsenal and Chelsea's own positioning in this race, since their involvement could easily affect how quickly Real Madrid feel they need to move to secure a deal, or indeed which club ultimately ends up winning this competitive chase for his signature. And watch for how Sporting CP themselves navigate this situation, given that clubs developing talent of this caliber often aim to secure the maximum possible value once a departure becomes genuinely likely, sometimes waiting for a release clause to be triggered outright, and other times negotiating a fee that falls slightly below that headline figure in exchange for a faster, smoother transaction. Why the right mentality would matter so much if this move happens. Let us return one final time to the central theme of today's discussion. Because whatever happens with the specific timing and details of this transfer, the underlying lesson remains genuinely important for any young player facing a similar career step up. Arriving at one of the true giants of world football as a young, highly rated talent brings with it an enormous weight of expectation. Fans at clubs of that stature demand excellence delivered consistently, and the margin for error at that level is considerably smaller than at almost any other club in the world. Success in that kind of environment requires far more than raw natural talent alone. It requires humility, extraordinary daily work ethic, genuine discipline, and a real willingness to learn from more experienced teammates who have already successfully navigated that exact same pressurized path. Any young player stepping into a similar situation would do well to study the careers of those who have gone before them and successfully thrived in these demanding environments, understanding that the very biggest stages in football reward relentless preparation and genuine humility just as much as they reward pure natural ability. How should fans approach transfer stories like this one? So how should we as football fans approach genuinely exciting transfer sagas like this one, involving a young talent linked with a move to one of the biggest clubs on the planet? I think the smartest approach is genuine excitement about the possibility, balanced with realistic patience about how these situations actually unfold. Major transfers involving release clauses and competition from multiple elite clubs often take considerable time to fully resolve, and reported interest, even from highly credible sources, does not always guarantee that a specific move ultimately gets completed exactly as reported. Enjoy following the story as it develops. Stay informed about genuine, confirmed updates as they emerge, and appreciate the broader lesson this kind of saga teaches us about just how demanding it truly is to succeed at the very highest level of the sport we all love. Final thoughts before we wrap up. So there we have it, football family, a genuinely fascinating transfer story involving one of the most exciting young defensive talents in European football right now. Ousmane Diomande continues to be strongly linked with a move to Real Madrid, with serious competition from clubs like Arsenal and Chelsea adding real intrigue to how this saga eventually plays out. And regardless of exactly how or when this transfer situation resolves, the underlying lesson remains just as important. Talent alone has never been enough to guarantee success at the very top of world football. It takes work ethic, discipline, mental resilience, and genuine humility to truly thrive at a club with this level of history and expectation. Let me leave you with one final question before we close out today's video. If you were a young defender stepping into this kind of high-pressure environment for the first time, what do you think would be the hardest part to adapt to? The physical demands, the constant media scrutiny, or simply the weight of expectation from fans who demand excellence every single week? Drop your thoughts down in the comments below. I read every single one, and I love hearing different perspectives from this passionate community. Thank you so much for watching today. If this breakdown helped you understand the full picture behind this exciting developing transfer story, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell, and share this video with a fellow football fan who loves following these big transfer sagas as much as we do. This channel only continues to grow because of supporters exactly like you, and every single one of you watching is part of what makes Carrick United Analysis a trusted home for honest, reliable football coverage. Until the next video, stay informed, stay curious, and keep following the biggest stories in the game with me. Come on, United.